All right, we got a bit of an impromptu live stream. It is Wednesday, and I normally stream on live streams, but it's a little bit later. And, well, I forgot to schedule this and put it on Twitter and all sorts like that. So we're going to go ahead and do one today, a little early, like I said, on building a new shift. I got a lot of things that I'm actually working on if you've been watching these live streams. I do want to return to that real-time factory. I put a little work on it the other week, but then I got sick, and last week I was at a conference, and so I haven't been able to kind of live stream the progress on a couple different things, and I need to switch gears and focus on a shift I've been wanting to build. So I thought that'd be a perfect candidate for a live stream. Let's get into the code here. All right, so I'm on the master branch. Let's actually go ahead and just cut a branch for this, of course. So we'll do git checkout -b, and we'll say Laravel Slimmer. And again, I thought this is a good candidate. I don't think we'll build the entire thing today, but I thought, even though maybe I've live streamed this before, I think I put it a bit on a Laracast series. I thought it'd be cool for those interested to kind of see behind the scenes the structure and how a shift gets built. So we'll just spend kind of the next 20 minutes creating the base class for this to function. So let me talk a little bit about what the Laravel Slimmer is. Hopefully everybody's seeing and hearing me okay. I'm assuming we're all good there. Actually, let me check my levels because I did do some recording on ScreenFlow the other day. And yeah, system audio, I think we're good. Can I hear? Yeah, I can hear me, so I think we're good. Let me know in the comments if not. Sorry about that. Okay, let's get in back to the code here. Okay, so what Shift has kind of at its core is a registry class, what I kind of call a registry. And what this class does is basically have a couple different methods that follow this interface. And this is a shiftable interface. And just kind of look at these at a high level. What it has is like the type of the shift, an internal code, or the SKU, if you will. It's got a proper name. It's got these tasks. That's the big thing we'll talk about here in a second. And then it's got some other ancillary information, like what's the resource path for the files that maybe get copied in or out? What's the latest version of this shift? So for example, Laravel 11, the latest version is Laravel 11.6. And then of course requires Composer. There are Tailwind shifts, for example. They don't require Composer. Most things do. So this is kind of the high-level contract that all shifts have to follow. So this is what a shift needs to implement for it to kind of work and process. And I'll talk more about that processing here in just a minute. Okay, so if we go back to a Laravel 11 shift, this is the one we're kind of going to mimic. And basically I'm going to copy this because it's going to be very, very close to this. So let me just go ahead and name it, and we'll kind of talk through it here. So this is the Laravel Slimmer is what I'm going to call this. And what this is going to do is basically take a already Laravel 11 application and slim it. That's one of the biggest changes in Laravel 11 is that you have this slim application structure. But what's kind of interesting is that the upgrade guide actually says they don't recommend slimming your older applications. I thought this was a little bit interesting, and of course talking with the core team I understand why they wanted to do this. It's just kind of a safer upgrade path. To name all the nuance of how you would slim an application would make the upgrade guide probably feel very, very lengthy. Much like the Tailwind 1.0 upgrade guide. It's just huge, 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 20,000 word type of post. So for those reasons, at a high level, I don't think that they're recommending it at this time. But what does the future look like? What does Laravel 12 or 13 look like? Are they still going to have all that code that supports a quote-unquote old structure? I don't know. I don't know what the future looks like. But I think people want to slim their applications. And there's a set of people that have already upgraded to Laravel 11 either by hand or simply bumping their Composer dependencies, which, as we know, again, as the future versions come out, that's not going to work. You have a lot of technical debt there. So to kind of paraphrase all that, there's an opportunity for a shift that strictly slims your application structure. And honestly, this could actually be run for a Laravel 11 application that was properly slimmed. Maybe there are configuration files over time that you change. Maybe there's middleware that you move in or out of your application. This is something much like the fixer that can actually be run on a project at any point in time. So I think there's some value in this particular shift. You can let me know in the comments, but the point here is that this, unlike the Laravel 11 shift, won't necessarily focus on the upgrade, but will focus on the pieces that slim the application. And again, the Laravel 11 shift does this for you. So if you're using shift to upgrade your application, then you wouldn't necessarily need this right away. Again, unless there were pieces of your application that weren't slimmed and you later knew that you kind of cleaned up your app a little bit or modernized pieces of it. This is kind of targeted again for those people that maybe strictly followed the upgrade guide this time around. They didn't upgrade, they followed that recommendation, but maybe when Laravel 12 comes along, we realize, oh crap, maybe we needed to slim that, or now we need to slim. So again, that's kind of the backstory on this. So we're going to go through these interface methods that we talked about before. So get type, this is a Laravel application. It does require Composer, of course. We're going to need to bump the Laravel framework version, or at least check it. Here, it's not the Laravel 11 shift. This will be the Laravel Slimmer is its name. The code, let's just call it Slimmer, I think. Laravel 5 expanded is the resource path. This is where it pulls in the latest resources. So this is kind of a legacy name, Laravel 5, but the Laravel 4 application structure changed between Laravel 4 and 5. So everything's still 5, so it's just a little backstory there. The latest version will be the same at this point in time, Laravel 11. And then here's kind of the big piece, is this tasks. And this is kind of why I call this a registry class. These tasks, basically what they do is this kind of pipe and filter, or what Laravel often calls a pipeline. The engine, the overall shift engine or the overall shift script that runs, basically takes a set of arguments, and with those set of arguments, it determines which shift you're going to run. It checks out, or clones the repository that you say to do. It checks out a branch and kind of sets up the environment for these tasks to run. And then it calls get tasks on the shift, and it just iterates through each one of these tasks. So it just kind of takes this as a pipeline from this registry. So this is telling you all of the tasks that need to run for this particular shift. So let's kind of go through these because again, right now we've copied these from the Laravel 11 shift, but it's not going to do everything the Laravel 11 shift does. The presumption here is that you're already running Laravel 11, but maybe you have an outdated or an old application structure and you want to see if anything can be slimmed. So let's kind of go through these at a high level. We will keep the slimming comment. The whole point here is to kind of let you know and educate you of what's going to happen here. We won't necessarily do any kind of upsells or any kind of things that are ancillary to upgrading your application, because again, this isn't focused on the upgrade, this is focused on the slimming. So we don't want to have any side effects, if you will, or we want to minimize those anyway. So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of the short array syntax, this class property, the optional no save, faker methods, remove model property. Yeah, I don't think we need that. These class-based routes are kind of interesting. The question mark here for me is kind of like, part of the slimming is to remove some of your providers, and what I'm thinking about here is the route service provider. And if you had a really old legacy route service provider that still had namespace in it, and Shift went in and removed it, if you weren't following class-based routes, I could see that being an issue. So part of me thinks we might need to keep the class-based routes one in here. Again, it doesn't feel directly related, it's kind of indirectly related. I'm going to leave them commented out for now. We're not going to mess with the lang folder or any deprecations. Here's the core stuff though. We're definitely going to slim the skeleton, so we want to do that. We're not going to mess with internal core files, I don't think. Yeah. Although we do, We do kind of need, I think artisan and public index do change. I'm gonna have to look at that. Let's leave that alone for a second. We'll come back to that. We do want the config to happen. We do want the environment variables to happen. We do want bootstrap, kernel, consolidating providers, re-registering providers. Basically, all of this stuff still needs to happen. We're not going to bump any dependencies. Again, this isn't about upgrading, so we won't bump dependencies. We're not going to do any PHP Unit 10 stuff. We're not going to mess with PHP Unit. We're not going to try to upgrade or modernize them in any way. Those are the responsibility of kind of other shifts, and or it's already happened. So let's get rid of those. Model cast, same thing. This isn't about upgrading to 11. We're not going to add any type hints. Controller. Mark-based controller is abstract. This happens in a fresh Laravel application, but again, this isn't necessarily part of slimming. So I wouldn't want, again, don't want any side effects. This is not about that. Deval stuff is part of the upgrade. Again, we're assuming that you're truly running Laravel 11. Vendor migrations. Yeah, again, you're already running 11, so you should have got rid of that. I think there's probably some things in miscellaneous we're going to need to do. Probably don't need to worry about fixing namespace. Or maybe we do. If we've slimmed your files, it's possible we need to worry about fixed namespace. We'll leave that up. No republishing. No upsells. Again, this isn't about that. Let's see what else we got here. All right. Okay, let's go back through these one more time. Okay, so let's kind of talk through what these do. And individually, each one of these tasks has kind of a handle or a perform method on it. So you can think of it much like a command inside of a Laravel application. So when we go down into something like Slim Skeleton, it has a commit that can potentially happen. This is, of course, your git commit message that you're going to see. And then it has this perform method where it kind of goes in and looks through, in this case, your core files, and it sees if it exists and if it can be removed. So all of these have kind of that same basic structure, that commit and that perform. And they're all going to kind of do that. So again, this is what the engine does. It reads through each one of these tasks and it just runs it, does the next, runs it, does the next, runs it, does the next. Just like a middleware pipeline inside of your Laravel application. It takes a request and it just does the next thing. This is what the same thing it does. It takes your set of files and it does it. Then if it has any changes, it makes a commit, and then it goes on to the next one, makes the commit, goes on to the next one. So what we're going to do here is we're going to leave the slimming comment. We're going to format your code. This helps normalize. This is a big part of Shift, and it's a bit of a hill that I die on, but basically, if you have a rule set within your application, Shift will honor it. If not, it's going to use the Laravel code style. And the reason that it does this is it normalizes your code so it can be compared to kind of a default. There's more steps that happen here, but you get a higher hit rate when I know that the code is normalized. So whether that's normalized to your code style or normalized to Laravel's code style doesn't really matter because I apply it to both sides. But the point is that normalizing the code style allows me to avoid any kind of like silly curly brace placements or white space issues when I'm comparing files. So again, you get just kind of a higher hit rate instead of those comments that are like, oh, Shift sees that yours might be different, so we didn't change it, go look at it and kind of check yourself. That's not ideal for anybody, right? So that's kind of why the format code thing is part of every Shift. Just a little backstory again. Okay, so we're going to slim the skeleton, we're going to slim the configs, we're going to rename your environment variables and let you know which ones might have changed. That's very critical, especially in Laravel 11, because there are lots of new environment variables, and again, the configuration files are slimmed. So this is the preferred way to set your environment stuff. And then we start changing the actual kind of important files. So we bring over the new bootstrap file. We bring over the registry for the HTTP kernel. We consolidate your providers down to app provider, because again, that's kind of what the default Laravel 11 application does and what the docs recommend doing. There's no more broadcast service provider or event service provider or even a route service provider. Same thing with the exception handlers. The different routes files now get turned on or off depending on if they exist or are in use. Console kernel, same thing. Commands are registered in a different way. So these are all of the tasks that are from the Laravel 11 shift, again, that the Laravel 11 shift does as part of the upgrade, but the Slimmer would need to kind of do as a subset to achieve the same result. And then miscellaneous, I don't think I'm going to need everything in here. A couple of these are probably rather important. The env changes maybe, but things like Symfony, Carbon, your PHP version, again, all of those are part of the upgrade. So probably what needs to happen here is I would have something like Slimmer, and I would have its own miscellaneous file. So I'll make that here off stream. So again, I'm not going to get into the making of the individual tasks because I think things slow down pretty dramatically at that point. We can make one of these just kind of for giggles. Let's just see if PHP Storm can help us out here. So we'll make this miscellaneous, and let's go back to 11's miscellaneous. Here we are in Slimmer. Let's just paste this in here, bring that over, kill this extra stuff, and we'll just kind of go through again these and see what we may or may not need. So let's get rid of these uses. We'll keep class miscellaneous. Looks like I have a duplicate for tasks here. Oh no, this is all just because of the same thing. So upgrade migration dates, Laravel now upgrades timestamps. This comment may or may not be needed. Again, it kind of depends on how much you may have previously slimmed. So let's say may, or we'll just say may not be needed if previously slimmed config. So I don't know if we'll need that. This remaining files is important, so we do want that. Again, cache prefix, you already upgraded to 11, so we wouldn't need that anymore. env changes, many of the driver changed. I don't think, again, you've already upgraded to 11, so I don't think you're gonna run into that. Enumerable, well, crap. I think it's probably worth keeping that warning. Let's get rid of cache prefix. Let's get rid of Carbon. Again, you've upgraded theoretically. Let's get rid of this contract. Let's keep env changes. There's no MariaDB bit. There's no PHP version. Remaining files, yes, that's important. And again, there's no Symfony changes. And this may or may not be needed. So let's slow down here. Okay, so again, what this task does is this one doesn't have any commits. It doesn't have any actual changes. It's just kind of miscellaneous comments to check for. So what it's doing in this case is it's maybe going in here and looking at the env change. There's no potential check here. So let's look at something that maybe has a check. This has a check. Here we go. Remaining files. So I just call out to this. It's just like a class, anything else. It's just a private method, encapsulated for readability. But basically, I get all the core files that the slim skeleton task has listed. I see if those files exist, and if they have a full count or whatever, then I'm not going to noisy up their PR. Otherwise, I'm going to do some diffing that happens here. For example, the app exceptions handler has already been commented on, I know higher up, so I don't need to check that. So again, if I go through all of that and you still have all of these like files remaining, these core files remaining, then I want to leave a comment that says, hey, these used to be in Laravel, 10 or previous versions of Laravel. Here they are. You might find new ways to consolidate them. But again, these additional files have already been handled by other tasks, so that's kind of why they're getting weeded out. But this is an example of a task, kind of one of these lower level tasks. So if we go back up here, we should see now in the Slimmer namespace, it has its own set of tasks that all do certain things to leave comments on the PR. And again, if it did make changes, then inside of tasks, I could just implement this commit method to not return null, to return an actual commit message, and that would happen with any changes that were inside of that particular task or made during that task's being performed. So at a really, really high level, that is how Shift works. I've got the template of a new Shift now. There's a couple other small things I have to do to kind of make this work, but theoretically, if I turned this on or made a little landing page for it on the Shift website, you would be able to go and run this Shift right now. Of course, I need to kind of test it and make sure it's doing the appropriate slimming and handling some of these edge cases that I kind of mentioned along the way. But for the most part, assuming you had an unslimmed Laravel 11 application, this would go in and kind of make it be that fresh, modern kind of feel, and let you know any other steps you might have to take with those remaining files. So that's it in a nutshell. I think I'll probably use some off-stream time to kind of make this happen, but hopefully in the next couple days you'll see a Twitter announcement of a new Laravel 11 Slimmer Shift. So again, let me know in the comments if you have any ideas for additional automation or what you think. So, all right, see y'all next week with some better scheduling.